Yeah, guys, before we move on to the Cavs here, I want to remind everybody, I love sports. I love them so much, I never want them to stop. But as the playoffs wind down and we get fewer games and the sports just aren't sporting like I want them to, FanDuel keeps me in the sports going whenever I want. All I have to do is open up the app, dream up a bet anytime I'm in the mood. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or bonus daily. That's right, there's something for everyone every day, all summer long. So head over to FanDuel.com/UCSS and start making the most out of your summer. FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball.
We've talked Browns. We've talked Guardians. It's time to talk a little Cavaliers here. And, guys, Kenny Atkinson has taken over for J.B. Bickerstaff. He's currently in Paris, coaching the French national team in the 2024 Olympics, which we'll talk about in a second. But when he comes back to Cleveland and implements his new offensive system, we have ideas of what it may look like based on his past in Brooklyn, based off what he's learned and developed in Golden State and with the Clippers and what he ran in Atlanta. So we have an idea and a premise of what we may see in Cleveland. We don't know for sure yet. But based on what we know, Tyvis and Jason, which player currently on the Cavs roster do you think will be the biggest beneficiary from going from J.B. Bickerstaff's offensive system to Kenny Atkinson's? Jason, start us off.
This is easy.
Evan Mobley.
No,
that's why I didn't pick it.
Yeah, I don't know what other answer there is. I mean, he sat up there during the introductory press conference and basically said the reason I'm here is to get Evan Mobley more involved in the offense. And that's a huge focal point for the season. We've talked before on the show about finding more of a Draymond Green role for him, making him a little bit more of a playmaker, putting the ball in his hands, playing through him at times. It's clearly Evan Mobley. I'd be curious if you guys came up with anyone else and the reason why, because this is Kenny's whole focus right now is turning Mobley into an all-star.
I came up with two other answers. Mobley was my first choice.
Mobley's everybody's first choice. I'm scared of who you. I'm gonna just say Donovan because.
Well, hold on. Can we go back to Mobley for 1 second?
Oh, go ahead.
So, have you guys watched any of the Team USA stuff yet?
Very little.
Yeah, very little.
Okay. Next time you watch them, watch how Team USA is using LeBron James.
Mm-hmm.
It is, and I may be looking too far into this, but something I've noticed, which I'm going to bring back to Mobley, I promise. LeBron is Draymond if you turn all his statistical abilities like up to the max. He could shoot, both great passers, but it's LeBron freaking James.
Right.
Steve Kerr is using LeBron in the Draymond-esque role, but if it was like Draymond Unlocked.
Yeah.
The Draymond premium version. You know what I'm saying? Like
yeah.
You paid the extra $7.99 a month. Like that is how he's kind of using LeBron in the system. And
higher speeds.
And it's FIBA, so like it's not exactly apples to apples, but look at the way he's utilizing LeBron in a similar capacity to how he utilized Draymond Green. And I'm curious, from Kenny Atkinson's standpoint, who told me straight face-to-face, like, yeah, I'm going to take some Draymond stuff. How much of what Steve Kerr's doing with LeBron now have they talked about in meetings and say, hey, if Draymond could shoot better, we could do X, Y, and Z in Golden State. Well, hey, we have LeBron, we're implementing it now, but those discussions have been had. Is he willing to come back and take and implement with Evan Mobley, who we hope can take that next step as a jump shooter and a three-point shooter in the spacing that elevates? And Evan Mobley is not LeBron. Like, let me make that abundantly clear.
Please.
He is not LeBron.
Please make
if he ever gets anywhere near the level of LeBron, the Cavs have hit the ultimate slam dunk pick of all time. But just something to watch as the Olympics get underway here. Watch how Team USA uses LeBron. Slightly different tweak to how the Warriors use Draymond. If Kenny Atkinson wants to use Mobley like Draymond, I'm just connecting the dots here.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder what we can learn from how Kerr's using LeBron to how Atkinson will try and utilize Mobley.
Because obviously Atkinson was with Steve Kerr last year, so.
And he's familiar with the international game.
Yeah.
And I'm just want everyone to watch that. It may be absolutely nothing. Like, it may be
That's
nothing.
a good point.
We hope
But
it's something.
I do too. And because Mobley has a different skill set than Draymond from an offensive standpoint. And he can do some things I think Draymond can't do. Draymond can do things Mobley can't do. So I'm just curious where in the line of, if this is LeBron and this is the Draymond scale.
Where does Evan fall?
Is Mobley below where he wants to use Draymond? Is he somewhere in the middle? And I'm just someone I'm going to watch as an extra layer to kind of dig into as the Olympic basketball gets underway.
Wasn't Draymond shooting 40% from three once upon a time?
Then he put a backpack on. And I can never unsee that meme after I saw it.
Anyways.
You know what I'm talking about? It looks like when Draymond shoots, it looks like he's wearing a book bag.
Yeah, I know exactly what
Yeah.
you're talking about.
I'm trying to. He was a
He was a decent shooter.
yeah. For
Was
a
it
few
the year
years
we
stretch.
And he lost
we
it.
seen him in the year he got kicked out of the playoff? The
That was his
championship?
prime.
That was
16, 15, 16.
Didn't he hit a bunch of
17?
threes in Game 7?
Yeah,
Yeah,
he did.
A bunch of
Yeah,
threes
he
in Game
did.
7.
Yeah. Yeah.
My
He
answer.
just can't shoot anymore, yeah.
My answer. I'm gonna pick Donovan because I don't know who you
Okay.
gonna.
It's not
pick.
who I was going with.
Right, so that's why I did it. I'm gonna pick Donovan because I feel like Donovan is a lot of his offense is forced. A lot of it is him getting the ball and he has to create and do his own thing. And I feel like if you get into an offensive system where a lot of movement, a lot of picks, and a lot of stuff like that, like I feel like it'll unlock you more. Now I don't have to worry about trying to break somebody down, then go into the lane. Like maybe I could just lose them off the backdoor cut. Somebody set a screen for me, boom, I come around, get the ball, and it's an easy transition play or something like that. And I feel like that would allow him to be more of an offensive weapon because we know Donovan is a guy that finishes well, but is a guy that can also shoot the three at a high clip. And I feel like if you implement him inside of an offense where maybe you do take the ball out of his hands and let him run around a little bit, now he can lose his defender and he can be more effective and score more points that way as well.
Darius wasn't my pick, but I think Darius fits into exactly what you're saying with how Atkinson's going to utilize some off-ball movement. In the JB system, and Jason, I know you can attest to this, whoever didn't have the ball between those two
Just stood there.
just kind of stood there and was a decoy. And they both, I think, could be utilized more off-ball as a distraction to the defense to at least force them to spread out, pull, shift to their side of the court to open up backside options for whoever has the ball. And whether it's Darius or Donovan, I think Kenny Atkinson will try and get those two to kind of work off each other better than your turn, my turn, your turn, my turn.
yeah.
Which in theory should benefit both of them because A, they're both capable shooters off down screens and pin downs in terms of catch and shoot situations. And we didn't see them get a ton of opportunities to do that. Under the JB Bickerstaff offense, I have to imagine, just because of the motion that Kenny likes to run.
Exactly.
Like he's gonna find ways to get them involved in actions that they didn't even think of doing.
I know
before.
your answer. Is Darius gonna be your answer?
No.
Is your answer Max Strus?
It was Max Strus.
I knew it.
For a lot of the same reasons I just kind
knew
of
it.
mentioned. He was miscast last year. I think we could all agree that Max Strus is a better player than we saw last season in Cleveland. Part of the reason, he was being asked to play the 3. He's not a 3, he's a 2.
What is still the three?
I'm about to say
Yeah.
he's playing the 3 this
No.
year.
It's not. That's not changing because of the roster. But what you can do with him is utilize him on offense more like a 2 than you would a 3, even though I guess they're kind of interchangeable. He's still going to guard out of position. Strus in Miami came off a ton of pin downs, ton of floppy action, which is essentially just a double on the weak side. You come around off the top of the key. Last year, he was a standstill shooter in the corner, which he can do. He didn't do a great job last year. He didn't shoot up to the expectation we had for him. But I think he's a guy that's a rhythm shooter, and I would be shocked if Kenny Atkinson doesn't find multiple different ways to get him into more rhythm shots on a consistent basis and early. If you're a shooter like Strus, get involved early. Even if you don't make a couple, get those touches. Kevin Love used to do it when he was with Kyrie and LeBron. Like, hey, we need Kevin to be engaged. How do you do that? Let's get him the first touch. I'm not against Max Strus getting the first. Well, actually, I want Evan Mobley taking it. So the second shot of each game, I want Max Strus being the one taking the second shot of every game off some sort of design set or design action to get him coming off a down screen to shoot. The way he was used in Miami, I think we're going to see a lot more of that under Kenny Atkinson than we did with JB Bickerstaff, who didn't really implement any of that stuff, or not nearly enough. They did bits and pieces, but not nearly enough to maximize the investment you gave to Max Strus.
Wasn't it a time with Golden State when Steph and Clay was running around and they ran in the middle, like linked arms, spent each other around, and then ran out?
Like a ring around the rosy
Yeah,
type
I swear
deal?
they did something like funny and then like ran out.
I don't remember.
Those two guys were so good that they could have done whatever the hell they wanted, and no one was saying anything to them.
I would like.
If I saw Max and Darius do a ring around the rosy in the middle of an offensive possession, I would lose my,
No, you wouldn't, because not if that possession ended with a trade. You
No,
would know
because
you
remember when
wouldn't. No, you
Andy
wouldn't.
Reid tried doing like the ring around the rosy playing?
They scored, didn't
No, it
they?
didn't work. No, it was an incompletion, that one. They've done some crazy stuff that
No,
worked.
I thought it got called back.
I don't think so.
When they did when they was in the huddle and they was going around and
Yeah,
then
that play didn't work.
I thought it did. I thought it got called back for something. I gotta look that up.
I could be wrong, but I don't remember that play working.
Did I talk about on the show about how the Cavs wanted Klay Thompson? They were trying to get him.
Yeah.
Can you imagine Klay and Kyrie together?
Oh, but they didn't want to take him at 4, right? They tried
didn't want
trading back.
They tried trading back into the top 10. They were trying to get the Kings pick.
Oh, a third top 10 pick.
Yeah, they traded Tristan. They got Tristan at 4. They loved Klay, and they were trying to get Klay at the back end of the top 10. Can you imagine Kyrie and Klay together?
And then add LeBron. I mean, I always thought, and it's funny that Klay Thompson had a chance to sign with the Lakers and ended up going to Dallas. I always thought Klay Thompson was literally the perfect running mate for LeBron James. Like the ideal, build him in a lab, perfect running mate for LeBron. And he's not the same player he is now that he was 5-6 years ago when he would have been the perfect pairing. But, yeah, that would have been a pretty damn good draft class. You want to talk about a haul in one class?
Yeah.
That's
they could take him at 4. They'd have been killed for it at the time, but
hey.
Would have been
get killed for it at the time, but if you're right, you're right. Who cares? That's why, like, if you really like a guy, you draft him. Like,
I agree.
Be damned if the media is against the pick or whatnot.
Kadarius Toney scored on that play.
Are we thinking the same one? Well, I'll look it up after. I don't want.
You talking about this, right?
Yeah, they scored on that play.
Yeah, they scored on that play. That's why I'm like, what are you talking about? They're about to throw the screen to Kadarius and he scored.
Oh, you know, I'll be damned. I'm wrong. If it worked, it works. I guess you're right, Ty. If it works, it works. Another guy who I think could benefit from a new offensive system is Karis LeVert. Do you know why? Because it'll be less Karis, you do what you want to do, and more of, hey, Karis,
structure.
You do what we're going to tell you to do.
Yeah.
And he knows the system. He played it in a little bit in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
And I think Karis.
Did he have big games in Brooklyn under Kenny?
He was super young. I don't particularly know his stats in Brooklyn, but they ended up trading him to Indiana while Atkinson was in Brooklyn. I forget what that deal was, but
that's not great.
Putting a little more structure on Karis LeVert, I think could be a good thing.
That's Jalen Tyson's role next year anyway, so not this year, next year.
Next year, 25.
Yeah.
We'll see. We'll see.
By the end of his time in Brooklyn, he was averaging 18 points.
Yeah, he was good. He was good. I forget. What was he traded for to Indiana?
Let me look it up.
Yeah, he was sent to Indiana from Brooklyn.
A bag of peanuts.
Karis LeVert, yeah.
Some peanuts.
No, he was good. He was a good young player. He was a first-round pick. I think he's like 22nd overall.
He went to the Wolverines, so how good could he really be?
He scored 50 points in an NBA game.
What's that supposed to mean?
Exactly what I said. He scored 50 points in an NBA game.
It's irrelevant.
Have you scored 50 points? You could, though.
If I was in the NBA?
Yeah, you can score 50.
No, I wouldn't score 50. That's absurd. 49 for sure.
It's easy. It's easier. I mean, it's still that's a heck of an accomplishment, but it's happening more and more frequently than
What, the 50-point games?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you think that somebody would beat Kobe's 81? The 100 thing.
I think they can.
I don't really respect the 100 because there's no film of it.
I think 81 could be got. The way they shoot threes.
What did Donovan get? 79?
71.
in overtime. That's matters too.
The overtime.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
But last year,
that's like the NFL records getting broken in 17 games.
Last year, Embiid and Luka both had 70, and Cat had 64, then got benched in the fourth quarter.
Yeah. Somebody will get.
Can you imagine that? By the way, he had 64 points and got benched.
Did they win the game?
No, because they were just giving it. He said, like, I want to score 80, so the whole team was just giving him the ball. So Chris Finch said, F that, get your ass on the bench.
That's funny.
Hey, you know what? I realize it's some real teammates out there. Like, that's love. Between him and Jameis giving the dude the touchdown at the end, like, it's a lot of good teammates out there that just bite the bullet for their teammate.
Yeah, I remember.
Why did Jameis say he did that? Was it to get a dude a bonus or something?
So Jamal Williams had led the NFL in rushing touchdowns in Detroit.
Yeah.
Then signed with New Orleans, but they had Kamara, and he hadn't had a touchdown all season. But I guess he hadn't missed a game, and Jameis was like, I want my guy to get a touchdown. Like, I want it in the statute. This guy's going to get a touchdown this year. And he did it, and I respect the hell out of it.
I do too. I ain't nothing wrong with it. Like, I don't understand why it was such a big thing for you down like 20-something points that you should have been mad back then. Like, it is what it is.
Before we move on, any players who you think will not benefit from the new system?
Jared Allen would be the same. He's the same guy. It is what he is.
I don't think anything changes for Okoro.
Is he even here?
Yeah, I mean, if
he's here.
Yeah, that's fair. I don't know if it changed. I don't think it's worse. I agree. It probably is even keel. Jason, anyone you can think of who wouldn't benefit from a new philosophy on the offensive end of the court?
No answer that hasn't already been said. The Okoro thing is really interesting, whether or not he's coming back. If he takes the qualifying offer, I think he should probably just sign the qualifying offer, come back for 1 year, and go into unrestricted free agency next year.
When's the deadline for that?
I mean, when the season starts.
Okay.
So he can sign it at any point. But I'll talk about on the show, when you get to this point, a lot of times it winds up in a sign and trade and you wind up elsewhere. We saw it with Larry Markkinen, couldn't come to terms on the deal with the Bulls, wasn't really getting a lot of action in free agency, winds up in Cleveland on a sign and trade. Larry Nance Jr. dealt out. And then Colin Sexton here, Cavs couldn't find any ground with him. They were ready to move on from him, and they sent him to Utah in a sign and trade that brings Donovan here. So a lot of times, I mean, this could drag out to August or September, and then if there's still no movement, then he may be looking at a situation where he should sign the qualifying offer. And they're right on that tax line right now. I wrote about it today. They're right on that tax line. If he comes back on the qualifying offer, they have to shed a little bit of salary, which they can do to stay under the tax. They don't want to go into the tax until next year. If they go into the tax next year, then they can run this whole thing out without ever becoming a repeat offender. They would not be classified as a repeat offender until 28, 29, and
by that point, there's so much moving pieces.
yeah, I mean, they have nobody under contract for 28, 29. So it's kind of remarkable that if they can, like when LeBron came back, they were a tax team that year. And part of his stipulation was, I'll come back, but you have to spend. So he came back. They added Kevin Love right away. Kyrie was still on his rookie deal for that first season together, but they were a tax team right away. So by LeBron's fourth year here, his last year in Cleveland, they were considered a repeat offender. And once you hit repeat offender status, the taxes become so punitive, it impacts every financial decision that you make, where $1 million becomes $4.5 million in penalties. It's crazy. Yeah. So the way that they have set this up, as long as they stay out of the tax this year, they can get 5 years out of Donovan, 2 max contracts, and Evan and Darius, and never be a repeat offender.
Which is crazy.
Yeah, it's like that's really good cap management on their part. And that's sort of what they're looking at here. And I think that's sort of impacted why they haven't really made any moves in this summer. You got to figure out what's going on with that. And they probably know in their head if they want Isaac back or not, and they can work through that. But if they stay out of the tax this year, 1 more year, it really sets them up nicely for the rest of this run.
You mentioned Jared Allen, and we'll close with this. And actually, Ant's got a question after about Jared Allen. I do think he's going to take, or could take a step back because of what we said about Evan Mobley. It's got to be, he's a max contract player now. Like, you got to see what you got in Evan Mobley.
Yeah, that's true.
See how he fits best, see what he does best, what's the best offensive scheme, what he can and can't do. And if that comes at the detriment of Jared Allen, so be it. And what's your Okoro question, then we'll move on.
Yeah, before I ask my question real quick, the Karras to Indiana, that was the 4-team trade that brought Harden to the Nets and then got us Jared Allen.
Oh,
yeah, that's
right.
I forgot about
That's
that.
right.
Yeah.
And
I
then
forgot that they were involved.
I just am curious what your guys' thoughts are. Does it matter if Okoro's back or not next year with this new system coming in? If we think it's going to be a flat line for him and Allen anyways, at least Allen's flat line, like, that's a good line to have. I think he's solid. Okoro, does it make much of a difference if we have him or not?
Yeah, I mean,
yes, because his defense is still something that was really good, and you always want somebody that takes defense serious. Now, I will tell you this: if Evan Mobley gets the voice and it becomes the defensive anchor and becomes the command and is out there talking and stuff, then maybe not. You know, if he's the one that's pushing guys to play defense better, then maybe not. But Okoro is the guy that you usually put on when you go up against those guards and those forwards that you kind of put on, and he kind of does a good job of handling them. So I think, yeah, he'll be missed on the defensive end, but if they're so good offensively, then it might not matter.
Yeah, Evan can switch onto perimeter guys, but I don't know that you want him guarding perimeter guys 40
Exactly.
minutes. So Okoro still plays a big role, a really big role in this. I mean, it wasn't that long ago. Mike and I were saying about the type of money he could get. Obviously, it doesn't look like that's going to happen. And again, he had a terrible playoff.
We went from $80 million to
he can't get a contract.
Didn't get $40 million.
Yeah, and a lot of that has to do with the way he played in the postseason. I fully believe, had he really emerged in the postseason and was an option for them and shot it during,
he was playable. You can just let's call it, if he was playable in the playoffs, he'd have a contract right now.
And we talked about it. I talked to coaches in the league in March. How would you guard the Cavs? And every coach I asked did the same thing. You shrink off Isaac. They didn't care what numbers he had. They didn't care how improved he had been. They wanted to see him do it in the postseason, and he didn't do it. And he cost himself a lot of money in the process.